What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of the Wrestling Junkies podcast. I'm Mr. Cincinnati, and conspicuous by his absence is the podcast dad who's unavailable on assignment this week, but he will be back next week. But nevertheless, we keep going. This is probably one of our favorite parts of the show to do, and quite frankly, if the shoe were on the other foot, he would want to do this by himself as well. But we get to speak to a wrestler. It's just, again, one of our favorite parts of this job because we are junkies, and everybody knows that. But here I am with a multi-year veteran who has dominated the Southeastern independent wrestling scene here in the United States. Everybody, please welcome Robert Martyr to the show. Robert, how are you, man? Thanks for joining me.
Doing good. As you can see, I had a long weekend as this black eye is not holding up on me. Yeah, I had a really good weekend this week, and I'm excited to talk to you, Mr. Cincinnati, and we're going to have a lot of fun today.
Awesome. Well, since you brought up the black eye, I feel like that's just the best place to start here. Tell us about the weekend that you have, or that you had, excuse me, and what led to the nasty eye.
Oh, so I got drop kicked really hard. And usually I'm good at, covering my face so that the foot doesn't directly make contact, but I completely missed. I was like here, and his foot was already here, and it was like, oh, this is not going to feel good. But yeah, I wrestled in Inspire Wrestling. And I wrestled Izzy James, and then before that, the night before, I wrestled a guy named Dustin Nugent. Um, and then before that, I wrestled. Who did I wrestle? I wrestled. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm blanking on this. But I wrestled somebody. That dropkick really did affect me, huh? Uh, but yeah, it was a good weekend. I had a great time, and yeah, I really enjoyed my time. Chandler Hopkins, that's who I wrestled. Chandler Hopkins, and I had a great match with Chandler Hopkins. I really enjoyed my match with Chandler Hopkins. Um, I from what I remember from that match, we did a. I went to power bomb him and he super kicked me 3 times. And again, this is why I'm blanking and I'm 23.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. It sounds like it was a weekend well spent, but let's just back it up a little bit. Let's start from the beginning. Here at the Wrestling Junkies, we look at professional wrestling and this art, this sport, this beautiful chaos that we enjoy. There are superheroes and supervillains, and they clash. The one thing they have in common is they all have an origin story. So, Robert, tell our audience about your earliest memories of pro wrestling.
My grandmother was the catalyst to everything. She was a photographer when she was very young, but over time she started to travel a little bit, and she went to Mexico a few times and took pictures of the luchadors, and from there obtained a bunch of really really sick DVDs and VHS tapes. So I didn't grow up on WWE. That was the last thing I grew up on. I grew up on AAA in
Okay.
Mexico from the 90s. So I knew who La Parca was, my Undertaker. Okay, I knew who Eddie Guerrero was.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew who Eddie Guerrero was before WWE. I knew who Rey Mysterio was before WWE. I grew up on Psychosis. I grew up on El Satanico and all these crazy names like Lizmark and Blue Panther and all these fucking guys. Like I grew up on all of them, and like I only discovered I discovered independent wrestling before WWE. I was watching Eddie Kingston and Homicide before I knew. Like I was
Wow.
watching Raw consistently because my
Yeah.
cousin, not my cousin, my uncle, was really into wrestling too, but he was into the indies, so he had Ring of Honor tapes, Chikara, CZW, and I
Nice.
got access to all of those things before the age of 10 years old. So I was
Wow.
watching, yeah, so I was watching all of that stuff. And then eventually one day, because dude, I was a very ADHD kid and I couldn't sit down. So my grandma put on wrestling, and that was the only thing that would keep me in my seat was watching wrestling. So I knew what WWE was, but that's not what I watched. Like I had SummerSlam 2006, I had Vengeance 2003, where I watched Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit for the U.S. title, and that's what was like, oh shoot,
Yeah.
I really like this stuff. Like this is the stuff that I really like. But the match that made me really go, wow, I need to do this was Brian Danielson and Homicide at Final Battle.
Oh.
That
Oh
was the
yeah. Yeah.
match. Yeah, that was the match. I was like, yeah, I got to be a pro wrestler. I don't know how. I don't know where.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know even anybody. You know what I mean? But like I'm Puerto Rican, right? And I didn't through my short fandom at that point. The only Hispanic representation I had were Mexican people, so Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. I didn't know Puerto Ricans wrestled, so I was like, Homicide is carrying a Puerto Rican flag. What the hell? That means I can do it. You know what I mean? And eventually one day, I remember I got grounded because I got caught watching Robot Chicken. I don't know what. I got grounded. They're like, why are you watching this? So I got grounded. So I was just flipping through the channels one day because I couldn't go on Cartoon Network for a while. And I saw, what's it called? I saw Sci-Fi, and they had Superstars.
Yeah.
But that's when they had, like, Superstars was popping. They had Edge and Rey Mysterio and Undertaker. I was like, oh, shoot, I know who Rey Mysterio is. He looks way different, you know, because he was like 20 years old when I was watching him. And that's how I got into like mainstream WWE. But dude, I feel like my perspective on wrestling is so different because of how I got into it. Like my thought process on wrestling is like my foreground is so completely different from everybody else's. That's why it's not an advantage, but it's like it's a different way of thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you know, to kind of expound on your early history, you know, especially in the tape trading days, you know, you mentioned AAA, but, you know, somebody else that you've mentioned a couple of times in your response there, who was also big in the tape trading scene of the early 90s is Eddie Guerrero. And you've definitely gone on record about your love for him and how he is essentially the perfect package of a professional wrestler. So definitely want you to expound on that. You know, what is it about the late great Eddie Guerrero that makes him that prototype of a professional wrestler in your mind?
I think other than being a total package, it's just the complete commitment to everything he did. The complete and utter full commitment to everything he did. When he was asked to be with China, he did that to the best of his possible ability. Yeah. When he was asked to be a mid-card guy and be in the cruiserweight division, he did that to the absolute best of his ability. I mean, dude, the match with – I know we all talk about it. It's almost redundant to even bring up that match at this point. But the match with Rey Mysterio at Halloween Havoc 97 is still – it's gospel at this point. It really is. Yeah. It's like you can't go wrong. And when he was asked to be the top guy, guess what? He did that with the best of his ability.
Yeah,
100%. And it's like, man, if I could be that committed, you know what I mean? I don't think there was ever a part of that man's career where he was just coasting. If you really look at it, like, I don't think there was ever a part where he was just like, oh, I'm just Eddie Guerrero and I'm just doing this. You know what I mean? Like, he was always on 100. And I think that's what made him like someone that you could genuinely connect with.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a beautiful response. Just because he'll, you know, and even as you watch late interviews and hear, you know, what people had to say about him, you know, especially as he ascended finally to the top of the mountain as WWE champion and wanting to make sure that, you know, he was a draw as best that he could. And even when he knew that he was getting ready to drop the title, he wanted to make JBL look as great as he could. I mean, to the point of, you know, you remember that Judgment Day 2004 match, that chair shot.
He didn't have to do that.
No,
he did not have to do that. He could have just laid down, took the pin, and called it a fucking
ref stoppage.
Ref stoppage, whatever it could have been. But no, he goes again, full commitment, above and beyond, more than anyone is expecting or asking of him, and blades harder than I've ever seen anyone take a blade job in their lives, and just bleeds viciously. He is the reason for the PG era. He's literally the reason. That moment right there is where Vince was like, this is too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, it's just so nuts that you could see him in all these different eras, and he was consistently good throughout all of them. Like, you watch him in New Japan in his early years, phenomenal work. You watch him in ECW, phenomenal work. WCW, even his late tenure, where he was kind of like in this weird area where he was just got done with the LWO angle. And he's done. And he has literally nothing to do. Still having great matches with Kaz Hayashi. Still having great matches with Shima and Dragon Kid and all these like Japanese guys because they have nothing for him.
Yeah.
He comes into the WWF, breaks his arm. After he comes back, all the segments, if you watch all of the what were they called? Oh my god. The Radicals. If you watch the Radical segments, after he breaks his arm, all the Radical segments are just Eddie talking.
Yeah.
The rest of the Radicals don't say anything. It's just him. And he's the one that's injured. You know what I mean? So it's like he was always trying something new, always trying something different, always being at the best of his game. And it's, oh man, he's just the best. He's so good.
Love that response. Love that response. We're gonna fast forward a little bit. You've already told us the match in which you knew that you were going to do this. You were in the business. We recently met this gentleman in person for the first time a couple of months ago, and he is just one of our favorite people. Matt the Mouth Griffin. I want you to tell us about the first time that you met Matt.
Man, I met Matt because I've probably for like the 100th time I reached out to Action Wrestling, and we made it happen somehow, some way. I don't remember, but and I met Matt, and I wrestled Adam Priest in my first Action Wrestling match. Wow. And I was 19. Yeah, that's on YouTube. It's available on YouTube on my YouTube channel. Me versus Adam Priest, and I was 19 years old. And that was the first major booking that I ever had outside of Florida, that match. And Matt was so happy with the match, so impressed that he kept bringing me back. And Matt, to this day, is somebody I try to reach out to and talk to. I know he's a busy guy. He's running Action Wrestling, which is, man, it makes me emotional talking about it because I miss Action so much. Because Action means so much to me because it was the first place to give me an opportunity and a chance. I had a feud with Ashton Starr for 6 months, and it was 3 matches, and it was 3 of the best matches of my career. We wrestled, and again, all on YouTube. We wrestled, and each match that we had built off the previous match, and it was just it brought my love for wrestling out continuously. I've gotten to wrestle so many good people in Action, and Matt's running it, and he's doing a phenomenal job. He's starting to put the time into guys like Landon Hale, starting to put the time into guys like Bobby Flacco and Eli Knight and guys like that. And that's just the right decisions. And you don't see that ever. You see the top stars getting their pay, getting their due, and leaving. But you don't ever see the young talent really getting those opportunities like that with that match with Mustafa. Like, that's balls to even put that match on, because you don't know. As great as Landon in, it's still an investment. You know what I mean? It's still a risk because he's not 100% established like Mustafa is. You know what I mean? So when he did that and he gave Landon that opportunity, dude, look what that did for him.
Yeah.
That was huge. Huge. You don't understand, man. Like, that was huge for me. I was like, oh my God, I'm watching this match crying. Yeah. Like, I don't get emotional at wrestling anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's, it's like, Action Wrestling, man. Matt Griffin. I remember the best memory I had with Matt Griffin was at SCI Futures Tournament. And that was probably the most important weekend of my whole career because before that, nobody ever decided we're going to take a chance on Robert. We're going to give Robert something. And I had been wrestling for 6 years at that point. And I'm 19. You know what I mean? 19 years old, wrestling for 6 years. I had put in the miles, the bumps, everything. And I felt so discouraged by wrestling because I felt like, man, nobody's giving me a shot. Nobody's willing to put this rocket on me. And Matt was the first one. Matt Griffin gets to say he's the first guy to believe in Robert Martyr. That's what I'll say. And I won the SCI Futures Tournament against Billy Starks and Eli Knight. Landon was in that tournament, if I believe. Yeah. Man, it was Merrick Donovan. Man, Hoodfoot was in that tournament. Wow. That's crazy. And it was one of the most emotional. There's a clip on my Instagram where they announced me as the future, the SCI Futures Tournament winner. And I'm just bawling, bro. I'm just bawling in the ring. Because my parents told me that I would never be successful at this. That I would never be. It's like going to the NBA, but worse. You know what I mean? Like, that they told me that you have a better shot at becoming a mechanic or an engineer or whatever else. Just don't waste your time on this. And hearing that for years and years and years and years from not only my family but my friends, and that was the validation I needed to keep going. And from that moment on, I have not stopped, and it's only gotten better from that moment. So you if you see that picture that you put up on the screen, if you want to put up again, that was right after I won. That moment right there, man, he told me that I did such a good job, that he loved me, and that this is only the beginning. And from that moment on, that was the validation I needed. So shout out to Matt Griffin.
Absolutely. Yeah, so definitely one of the things I noticed as I was doing my research for this interview, and you've mentioned betting on yourself, taking those chances, and if there's nobody else in the world that believes in you, you believe in you. You put out this short film on Twitter about 3 months ago, give or take, called Affirmations. Denying change is the death of progress. This is the end of the road, but the beginning of a new one. This is the journey to nowhere. World Tour 2024. Take us behind the mindset of producing that video, what your goal was in releasing it, and how you think that it has shaped where you're going this year so far.
Affirmations, the goal was to establish that I do not have a home. I was mainly a prestige wrestling wrestler for a long time, and I wrestled Jake Christ, and I thought it was going to be a fair match, and I wrestled Jake Christ, and the stipulation was if I lost that match, I couldn't be in prestige wrestling anymore. And Sami Callihan, while the ref was down, came in, hit me from behind, pile drove me, and Jake Christ won the match. So I lost a home. I lost the one place that was willing to give me a shot. And if you notice, if you watch it, I'm in a hotel room. That's where I'm at in that video. And it's just me. I guess it was probably the second most vulnerable video I've done, probably. Because the first one that I did was called Stray, and it was me talking to myself. And the second one is not me talking to myself, but it's me exposing every insecurity I have. Like I talked to a therapist on that video. I'm walking around the streets of Orlando looking for a bus. You know what I mean? The biggest thing I wanted to get across in that video is that, number one, it's okay to not know where you're going and to embrace that. Embrace the fact that you have no idea where you're going. Embrace the journey of being a nomad, somebody that doesn't have a home. Because wrestlers, at the end of the day, wrestlers are pirates, man. I'm a fucking pirate. I don't have a home. I'm going all across the country. I'm going there for 1 or 2 days maximum. I'm wrestling and I'm leaving. You know what I mean? And that can be very lonely sometimes. And I wanted to expose that loneliness. I wanted to expose that insecurity. I wanted to expose the fact that wrestlers, as cool as spectacular and as amazing they are, we're human. And I'm human. And I wanted to expose that fact. And the World Tour 2024, it's still in the works. I'm still trying to figure out, but I want to go to the UK. I want to go to Germany. I want to go to Canada. That's my goal. I want to leave the United States, and I want to wrestle in the outside of the United States, because I've done everything I've wanted to do in the United States. Quite literally, I have done everything. I started wrestling at 14 years old. I am 23. This is when I should be in my formative years as a pro wrestler, but I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm almost 10 years in. I got 2 years left till I'm 10 years in. And it's so crazy to think about. But every promotion that I've ever marked down as my list, I've done it. And it's not like a flex. It's just I've literally I've done it. And it's like, okay, what's next? What's the new challenge? What's the next thing? And there's 2 things that I have not done. I have not traveled outside of the United States except for one time. And the other time is I've never been on TV. Those are 2 things that I have not done. So once I accomplish those, I've accomplished every single thing I wanted to do in wrestling. And everything else is just going to be a bonus. But those are my 2 goals right now. I want to get at Cincinnati. I want to do wrestling the fucking hard way. Does that make sense? I don't want to get a contract right now. Does that sound crazy? That sounds crazy. But I want to I want to put the 5-10 years in of going across the world, wrestling across the world, going to Japan, staying in Japan 5-6 years, going to the UK, going to Germany, going to Canada, and becoming an international wrestler, and then focus on, you know, a TV contract or something along those lines. If one does come to me, I'm not saying I'm going to deny it, but I'm saying if I had to choose that path, I would choose the hard way. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I know that the fruits are sweeter at the end. At the end, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
for sure.
But yeah, that's I think that's that affirmation video. If whoever's watching this, if you watch it, that's the closest I think you're gonna get to seeing Robert.
Yeah,
just Robert. You know what I mean? But yeah.
No, that makes complete sense. And I mean, it's you're on this lifelong quest, and that's the thing is one person's wrestling career is not going to look the same as the other as far as what their motivations are, and that candor is refreshing about you want to do things the hard way. And this is something else I came across here is a tweet of yours, essentially that connection between self and ring is what you are chasing. I mean, you've been all over the country, you've been out, you're wanting to go outside of the United States, but take our audience a little bit more through what does that connection between self and ring look like for you?
Man, you did your research.
I
do. Yeah. Man, the biggest connection between self and ring, it's essentially losing yourself in the ring. It's losing yourself. It's losing all of the distraction, all of the stress, all of the worry of how messed up our life is, of how messed up the world is, of how all the stressors of what's going on in our personal life, and it's completely like Eddie Guerrero does, committing in the ring and letting yourself go and becoming the match. Because once you become the match, nothing can go wrong. Once you are the match, that is the most perfect scenario you can be in. I don't know if you've seen where the Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar match, the 1 hour match on SmackDown. Do you remember that?
Iron
where
Man.
Kurt Angle said that he lost his sister the night before.
Yep.
Due to an overdose. And he said he refused not to wrestle, and he had the greatest match of his career. That is the connection between self and ring. He lost himself.
Yeah. Damn, that's that's a captivating response for sure.
Yeah, that's the connection, man. It's emotional, it's spiritual. I don't want to sound like a weird guru or anything, but it's like truly like you don't understand how many times there's been a point where I've had a match and I'm done, man. Like I got nothing left in me. Like I'm mentally, emotionally, physically beat, and I just want to crawl in a hole and have the world leave me alone. But I have to wrestle, and I have no other choice because they're playing my music. I can't go back. And you just have to accept the fact that this is your life, and you go out there and you just kill it, and it just brings the rejuvenation back into your real life. And it's one of the most fulfilling things ever. You know what I mean? Like, man, I get emotional talking about it, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah, no,
wrestling's emotional.
Yeah, no, I mean it's and that's what people forget sometimes is that is that emotional attachment, whether you're a wrestler, fan, what have you, whatever your passion is or whatever your place is in wrestling, that, it does have kind of this, it has this effect of catharsis for those that are involved. So yeah, no, we appreciate you being candid about it. Let's turn the page here. We've been talking all things Robert Martyr for about 25 minutes now, give or take. We're going to give you the spotlight now. Who are some names? And I know that you've mentioned Landon Hale, Bobby Flacco. Who are some other people that we should be looking out for in 2024?
Oh man, the tag team Sinner and Saint.
Okay.
Sinner and Saint, Judas Icarus and Travis Williams. These guys, you might have seen them on TNA a few times, but these guys are next level. Next level. When I mean next up, they're next up. They're the current prestige tag team champions, and I truly believe both of them have a singles run in them. They're both that good. They're one of those tag teams that are equally as good as each other. Like one doesn't outshine the other. They're just fantastic. Sinner and Saint, Judas Icarus and Travis Williams. That's my number one pick right there.
Okay.
I love those guys. Even though I don't talk to them every day, I love those guys. Like they're so good. Man, who else? Who else can I give a spotlight to off the top of my head? Because there's so many people. There's a kid named Jordan Saint out of New York. Jordan Saint, he's a good kid. I like him a lot. He has a lot of special talents, and I truly believe that he will get good if he stays on the right track. One more guy I'll give the spotlight to, a few more people, but one more guy I'll say, his name's the Big Boofa, Desmond Cole. Desmond Cole is my fucking man. I love Desmond Cole. Desmond Cole is the boy, bro. Desmond Cole is one of those guys that I cannot like. Okay, listen, bro. I'm 5'8". All right, 5'9" with boots. Okay, I'm just being real with you.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't lie. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm 6 foot. Desmond Cole's about the same height as me. If Desmond Cole was 2 feet taller, bro, do you understand? Do you understand where this man would be right now? 200, like I don't think y'all are like actually getting like where I'm coming from. This dude would be money signed like everywhere.
Okay.
He just gets it. He just gets it. All like you want to see an entertaining, like you want to see a banger match, he'll do that. You want to see a funny, like not a funny match, but a match where it's pure entertainment, where it's talking to the fans, getting the audience engaged, getting like in between moves as we're running around doing all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
He'll be striking a pose in between the backflip. Like he's saluting you as he's flipping.
Jeez.
It's the craziest. I wrestled him and it was like, I was like, why am I doing this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it makes you question. Desmond Cole, man. Desmond Cole. I will put my stamp on Desmond every day of the week. I love Desmond. Oh my God. It gets me hyped because he's just like, there's nothing not to like about him. He comes out, he's hype, boo, fuh. The crowd responds every time. And you're like, bro, why don't I have a catchphrase? I don't even know what to say to you people. You know what I mean? I don't know what to say to you people. He's just a ball of charisma. That's the best way to explain it. A ball of charisma. And he's so entertaining, and I love him. Last person I'll give a shout out to, Morgan Dash out of North Carolina. I'm actually wrestling him this weekend.
Nice.
Morgan Dash out of Firestar Pro Wrestling, June 14th. It's a boxcar, which is a huge arcade / fighting game tournament arena. Not arena, but it's like a building that they have FTC events held them there. He is amazing. He is fantastic. He is the next Morgan Dash. He is how do I put this? You know that early era of early 2000s high flyers? You know, like Amazing Red and early AJ Styles,
sure,
or Matt Sydal / Evan Bourne, like those guys. Like he's that.
Okay.
Like we have a lot of high flyers in wrestling. You got Javon Evans. You've got so many people. You know what I mean? But he's like a different, specific, like Jack Evans. Like that's what he reminds me of. He's like very specific to that time period where it's just like. It's not just flips for the sake of flips. He still has great wrestling ability, but it's just the way he does them, where he puts his flips, where he and he can kick hard, really hard. And it's like, what? Like you're 5'4". How are you kicking that hard? You're just like he's crazy good, and he's like a guy that like hasn't got an opportunity. He was recently on DPW. Shout out to that. But like he's a guy that hasn't had an opportunity, and I feel like I'm going to try to have the best match I can with them this weekend. Like I want to give people that opportunity. Like I'm not the biggest wrestler or anything, but I've been doing this long enough, and I've wrestled enough at enough big promotions and wrestled enough big names where I feel like I can be an asset to the people that need those opportunities. So I'm going to have the best match I can with them. He's really good to look out for. So yeah, those names, if you catch those names on YouTube. If you don't know who these guys are, look them up, because this is your future. The people that are going to be on TV now are going to be the established guys later, and you're going to have to find a new crop. And guess what? The people that I'm mentioning are going to be that new crop. So always support independent wrestling. Always, always, always support independent wrestling, because you never know who's going to be on your TV screen.
Hear, 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 hear. Very, very well said, and definitely have, excuse me, given us some food for thought. But before I let you go, one very important question for you. This question is asked of every guest that is on the show. I know that you were into everything but WWE before, as far as your early wrestling fandom, but I think this is a question that you can answer. There was no right or wrong answer. It's just a friendly debate that we have here at the Wrestling Junkies podcast.
Gotcha.
When you hear the moniker Mr. WrestleMania, is it Shawn Michaels? Is it The Undertaker?
Ooh. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. This is a fair debate, and I've heard this on your pod. I've heard the lore on the podcast, okay, because I watch. Okay. Here's the issue, is that they were always trying to ham it to Shawn. They was branded to Shawn. They never said Mr. WrestleMania about Taker, okay? It was always Shawn. Shawn is Mr. WrestleMania. He's the Mania guy. But if you really think about it, up until the end of the streak, what did we look forward to? Taker.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We did. Every year, who's going to wrestle Taker? You knew there was a spot on the card that had to go to Taker. You knew there was not. It was like, I remember having debates with my friends like, oh, there's no way we're going to get this match. Yeah, but there's still the Taker spot. So he might be wrestling Taker this year. You know what I mean? Like, It was always, you have to associate Taker with WrestleMania. It's just how it is. But I understand why people are like, well, Shawn's Mr. WrestleMania, because they've branded Shawn as Mr. WrestleMania. But if we're going by the logistics, if we're going by the fact that for decades Shawn wasn't on WrestleMania every year, you know what I mean? That the fact that Taker was consistently on WrestleMania on the dot every single year, his whole career legacy was built on the one night at WrestleMania. You have to go with Undertaker as being the Mr. WrestleMania, because by logic, consistently on the card, when you talk about WrestleMania, his name is synonymous with the event itself. His legacy is built on the name, on the event itself. On top of the fact that you literally were having storylines circulated around one match, where? Not at Elimination Chamber, not at SummerSlam, where? At WrestleMania. So it has to be The Undertaker. No buts about it. I'm sorry, Shawn. I love you. Please give me a job.
The podcast dad is going to be so disappointed to not be present, to have heard that answer. I cannot wait to see his face once I play this. Once I play this back for him, he's very much Team Taker. I am Team Chef Michaels, but again, it's all love around here.
Okay. I know we have to end this, but I want to hear your stance on it, because it's very well like, yes, you know what I will give Shawn in the early WrestleManias, he was Mr. WrestleMania. In the early WrestleManias, they were branded around Shawn. So I understand where that comes from. They wouldn't have just said that just to say that. But it's like, he left the company. So it's like, it's like there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, I think for me, it's it wasn't necessarily leaving by choice. But when it comes to, like you said, when it comes to Taker, the story is built around Taker and that match at WrestleMania. Whereas with Shawn, it's more about the opponent, the quality of the match, of just, okay, you just know it's going to be an instant classic. Like,
Understood.
Understood. So like when you look at the early years of the Undertaker streak, there were some not so great matches there, but you really can't think of it like per se, like objectively bad match that Shawn Michaels ever had at WrestleMania. Whereas with Taker, I am reminded of Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez. That is also a part of the lore of the streak.
Got
So
you.
not only that, but then we fast forward to 1998. He knows that he's done. At least at that moment, he thinks his career is done. He can barely move. He's grouchy. He's irritable. Goes on to put on a clinic and basically is the catalyst to help launch the largest star that got them through their most successful boom period. Then comes back and has an entirely different second act where he reinvents himself. He's a better person than he was back then. And every single match that he had at WrestleMania was classic.
Better. Yes.
Yeah.
And
there was always something to talk about.
And the one with the angle is still like,
yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Injected in my veins.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, you have a really good point there. I do think that you do have a very good point. The fact that you did bring up that the Giant Gonzalez match was a big punch to my argument about him being WrestleMania, but it's also like, I do feel like, although that Giant Gonzalez match is still present, I do still feel like Shawn was important to WrestleMania, but I don't think like they weren't building the entire show around. Sometimes there was just I remember when it was Shawn versus Taker, the 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
half of Shawn's entire segments was just begging Taker to have a match with him. Yeah. So it's like, even Mr. WrestleMania was like, Taker, please, bro. Yeah. Please, we gotta have a match, man. Like that's what I'm gonna. That's my card, and maybe your co-host whenever we do another interview. Maybe we're co-host. Yep. You can't say he's Mr. WrestleMania when himself is going actually nuts over a match with Taker. Literally loses his mind at the fact that he loses the Royal Rumble. That he got eliminated. Super kicks the ref. Doesn't give a he doesn't care anymore. He's deranged. I feel like as well as those matches hold up, the legacy of the Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania trumps that by Shawn's actions at during the storyline. Because if Shawn really was like, because Shawn is the type of guy where it doesn't matter how big you are, and not even literal size, but like just how the status of who you are. He was doing it to John in his prime, like sunning him. Like that was kind of Shawn's thing for a while. When he came back, it was like, bro, I'm Shawn Michaels, right? Like you understand, like I'm Shawn Michaels. You know what I mean? Like that was his thing for a minute. He didn't do that with Taker. No. He did not do that with Taker. He was like, I need a match, Taker, right now. Run it. And Taker's like, I don't want to wrestle you because I'm going to end your career. I'm not going to do that. And then he's just crashing out on live television every week until he got the match. So I think because of that storyline, I think Taker still wins. But that's just my opinion.
That might be the best debate that has ever occurred on this show about that topip and podcast. Sorry that you missed it, but
I think we're ending the debate right here. Bro, he was crashing out, bro. He was crashing out on live TV every week. I remember that was one of the things that got me hooked to like WWE real bad. Yeah. Was that whole Shawn story 2 years in a row. And then they had like, bro, I hate how people on Twitter try to downplay those matches. Are you kidding me?
No,
those matches are fire.
Yeah.
Those matches are amazing.
Perfect.
Damn near perfect matches. Oh man, yeah. I think I would love to come back and like actually we'll have a longer interview. But it's like, dude, I remember he tried to do like the DX. He tried to do DX again for one night. It was like, I can't do this shit, bro. Taker, where are you, bro? Like Shawn Michaels or Triple H is like, bro, we're supposed to bring DX back, and he's like, no, bro, I can't do this. Yeah. This is foolish. I can't.
Yeah.
Yo, he shut down the whole DX celebration for Taker. He just shut it down. Oh man, that's awesome. But yeah, all right. If you want to let it go now, I'm good. I had to get that off.
No, I absolutely loved it, and no, this was fantastic. You're absolutely coming back. Thank you. But before we let you go, where can everybody find you on social media? What do you have coming up? I know you've mentioned DPW this weekend, but just kind of take us through what the next few appearances and where can everybody can check you out.
Okay, so I have June 14th at Firestar Wrestling. The show will be on YouTube. It'll be against Morgan Dash, and that'll be this weekend, this Saturday. as far as my socials, the Apex RM on Twitter and Death2TO Martyr on Instagram. As far as my dates, you probably won't see my screen right now. That's because I'm checking what I have. But I have CZW Inspire Pro and a few other places that I can't announce yet, unfortunately, but I wish I could.
That's okay.
But
okay.
yeah, but you will see in the news. But as I know you guys were mentioning the thing that I uploaded 3 months ago, affirmations. I have a similar video being uploaded either tomorrow or next week. I'm not sure, but so keep a lookout for that.
All right. Sounds good. Well, Robert, thank you so much for joining me. Cannot wait to have you back. I guess I'm going to have to trust you with a live microphone next time. Can't wait to see how it goes.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's going to do it for us. Once again, thank you to Robert Martyr for joining us. Make sure to follow him on socials. Make sure to follow at @mainevent_net for all things Main Event Network and at Junkies Pod for all things Wrestling Junkies Podcast. So for Robert Martyr, I'm Mr. Cincinnati. This has been the Wrestling Junkies Podcast. We'll talk to you guys soon.